The morning sun rose slowly over the crowded streets of a small town in the Philippines, casting a golden glow on rows of humble homes made from wood, tin, and hope. Among the many children who wandered those streets was a young boy whose life had never been easy. He had no expensive clothes, no shiny shoes, and no parents waiting for him at home after a long day. Life had taken away the people he loved most when he was still very young, leaving him to survive with the help of distant relatives and kind neighbors. Every day was a struggle. While other children carried school bags and dreamed of becoming doctors, teachers, or athletes, this boy spent much of his time helping wherever he could just earn enough money for food. Yet despite the hardships surrounding him, there was one thing poverty could never steal from him: his voice. Whenever he sang, the noisy world around him seemed to disappear. The crowded streets became a concert hall, the passing vehicles became silent spectators, and the sky itself seemed to listen. People would stop what they were doing and turn toward the small barefoot boy whose voice carried an emotion far beyond his years. He sang not because he wanted fame, but because singing was the only place where pain transformed into beauty. Every note told a story of loneliness, resilience, and hope. Though he had little material wealth, he possessed a gift so extraordinary that it would one day carry him from the forgotten corners of his town to one of the biggest stages in the world. One evening, while helping clean a small roadside eatery, the boy heard an old song playing from a worn-out radio. The song was Hotel California, the legendary classic by the Eagles. He had never heard anything like it before. The haunting melody, mysterious lyrics, and emotional guitar harmonies captured his heart instantly. Though he barely understood every word, he felt every emotion hidden inside the music. Night after night, he returned to that radio, listening carefully and memorizing each verse. Without formal lessons, sheet music, or vocal coaching, he practiced tirelessly. He would sing along under the stars, imagining himself performing before thousands of people. The song became more than music. It became a companion during lonely nights and difficult days. Whenever hunger or sadness overwhelmed him, he sang Hotel California, allowing its melody to transport him somewhere beyond the struggles of reality. Over time, he developed his own interpretation of the song. Instead of copying the original singers, he infused every lyric with the emotions of his own life. The result was breathtaking. Friends, neighbors, and passers-by often gathered just to hear him sing. Some wiped away tears. Others stood speechless in amazement. No one could explain how such a young boy, burdened by so much hardship, could deliver such depth and power through music. What they didn't realize was that every painful experience had become part of his voice, shaping it into something unforgettable. Years later, an opportunity arrived that seemed almost impossible. Through local videos shared online, stories about the talented Filipino boy began spreading across social media. People were captivated not only by his voice, but also by the heartbreaking story behind it. Supporters from different countries encouraged him to pursue bigger dreams. Eventually, he received a chance to audition for the world-famous talent competition America's Got Talent. The news felt unreal. Traveling to America was something he had never imagined. He had never owned much, never traveled far from home, and certainly never expected to stand before millions of viewers worldwide. As he prepared for the journey, emotions overwhelmed him. Excitement mixed with fear. What if he failed? What if people laughed at him? Yet another voice inside him reminded him of every challenge he had already overcome. Compared to surviving alone as a child, singing on a stage was not something to fear. When he finally arrived at the AGT Theater, he was amazed by its size and grandeur. Bright lights illuminated the stage. Cameras pointed in every direction. Contestants from around the world waited nervously for their turn. Standing backstage in simple clothes, he looked very different from many performers around him. But he carried something far more valuable than expensive costumes or professional training. He carried a lifetime of experiences, emotions, and dreams. As his name was called, he took a deep breath and walked toward the stage, unaware that he was about to create a moment that millions would never forget. As the boy stepped into the spotlight, the audience greeted him with polite applause. The judges smiled warmly and asked about his background. When he revealed that he had grown up without parents and often lived with almost nothing, the room became noticeably quieter. His story touched hearts immediately. Then came the question everyone asks, "What will you be singing today?" When he answered, "Hotel California," some audience members exchanged surprised looks. It was an ambitious choice. The song is iconic and beloved by generations of music fans. Many talented singers had attempted it before, but few had truly made it their own. The music began softly. The theater fell silent. Then the boy opened his mouth and sang the first line. Within seconds, everything changed. His voice was rich, soulful, and remarkably mature. Every note carried sincerity. Every lyric felt personal. As the performance continued, expressions across the room transformed from curiosity to astonishment. The audience leaned forward in their seats. The judges stared in disbelief. Most noticeably, Simon Cowell appeared completely captivated. Known for his critical standards and honest opinions, Simon rarely showed strong emotions early in a performance. Yet this time, he seemed unable to look away. His eyes widened. His posture changed. The room was witnessing something special. The boy wasn't simply singing a famous song. He was breathing new life into it. Decades after its release, Hotel California suddenly felt fresh, emotional, and deeply human. By the time he reached the final chorus, many audience members were already standing, overwhelmed by the power of what they were hearing. As the final note echoed through the theater, a moment of silence followed. It lasted only a few seconds, but it felt much longer. The audience seemed frozen, trying to absorb what they had just experienced. Then the room erupted. Thunderous applause filled the theater. People jumped to their feet. Some cheered. Others cried openly. The standing ovation seemed endless. The judges applauded enthusiastically, but Simon's reaction attracted the most attention. He shook his head in disbelief, smiling as though he had just witnessed something extraordinary. When the judges finally began sharing their thoughts, praise poured in from every direction. They spoke about the authenticity of his performance, the emotional depth in his voice, and the incredible journey that had brought him there. Simon remarked that what made the audition unforgettable was not just technical skill, but genuine emotion. Audiences can recognize authenticity, and this boy possessed it in abundance. Viewers watching around the world felt the same way. Clips of the performance spread rapidly online, gathering millions of views within days. People from different countries shared the video with friends and family. Music lovers praised his interpretation of the classic song. Others were inspired by his resilience and determination. Many commented that they had heard Hotel California countless times throughout their lives, yet this version touched them in a completely new way. In that moment, the song became connected to his story forever. A barefoot Filipino boy had taken a legendary masterpiece and added a chapter all his own.